Hi, I'm Shane Phillips, the CEO of the Phillips Group, and I'm here at the HR Summit in Expo, the #1 HR event in the Middle East, and I'm here with Dr. Michael Platt, who's one of the world's leading neuroscientists and a professor at the Wharton Business School. Welcome, Doctor.
Pleasure, thanks for having me.
So you were just talking, there's so many areas that this applies to, but you said one of the areas where we can actually see concrete results is in marketing.
Absolutely. So marketing was really the first area that neuroscience began to get a foothold in the last decade, and this has really come on in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Marketing is an area where we can demonstrate that if I collect a little bit of biological data from you, could be brain waves, could be where you're looking, could be micro expressions on your face, I can combine that data across a small group of individuals and actually predict the effectiveness of an advertisement of any sort at the market level. So actually predict ticket sales at the movies, or sales of DVDs, or click-throughs to websites, or viewership of particular television shows. And what's really remarkable about that is you can take it another step further.
So what happens to that brainwave, like if you were having that equipment on my brain, what will we see when you say, okay, this ad is definitely triggering Shane? What kind of activity are you seeing?
Right. Well, it depends on what technology we would use, but the kinds of signals that would be most informative to us reflect a few things. One is attention. So did the ad grab your attention, and did it grab your attention in the way that the creator intended it to, right? So that's one thing. And we know that things that you pay attention to get access to your brain in a privileged way. So they're more likely to be remembered, more likely to affect your later decisions. So we look for attention, we look for emotion. So are you having an emotional response, and hopefully a positive emotional response? And then we might look for something like memory. Is that actually getting encoded into memory, which means it could affect your decisions later on. So those processes we can measure with greater or less precision with different kinds of technologies that go from being very cumbersome, like lying in an MRI machine, a brain scanner, to having a camera focused on your face that allows us to pick up on where you're looking and how big your pupils are.
Right. And what are some of the other areas outside of marketing which you find are very impactful?
Yeah, I think HR is probably one of the most important, and where ultimately we'll see the biggest impact. So think of it basically as kind of there's two major components to HR. One is assessment and selection, and where neuroscience can help us to provide a much more robust, precise, scientific understanding of who people are in terms of their talents, their traits, and motivators, which can help us align the job they do with really who they are, instead of just asking them questions, giving them personality tests and IQ tests, which are flawed in a variety of ways. So that's one area. And the other, which I think is even potentially more impactful, is in team dynamics, team chemistry, collaboration, where there are signals that we can measure which can help us to identify who will work well together, who will have chemistry, ongoing changes in the dynamics between individuals, and ultimately what we can do with that is to put the right people together on teams so we have the most desirable outcomes. And when we do that, I think employees are going to be happier also. So this will contribute to well-being. That will lower turnover, right? So, and then companies will spend a lot less money on recruiting, training, et cetera. So I think that's one where it's a win-win for the company bottom line and for employees' happiness and well-being.
So moving forward, as part of our executive development, will we be getting brain scanned like a couple times a year? And they'll be like, Shane, your brain waves are just not there yet. Are we?
Well, I think what you're going to see emerging is actually wearable devices. I mean, we've actually developed our own in-house that's very high signal quality, high fidelity, but unobtrusive and comfortable to wear. And that gives us a first step at kind of some continuous monitoring of brain activity. I mean, ultimately, brain scans are still expensive, time-consuming, and cumbersome, but ultimately, they may become quite, I think it could scale eventually. And if you're making a decision about something that is monumental for a company, like a CEO, yeah, you might want to make the investment in getting brain scans on all your candidates to understand something about their leadership potential, their moral psychology, because we now know that there are actually even structural differences in the brains of MBA students who have achieved different levels of moral reasoning. So this is quite remarkable.
And physically, their brains are different, or
yeah.
So what's the difference?
There's differences in the connections between an area of the brain that basically regulates emotional processes, and we also see that that also characterizes differences between people in their tolerance for risk, for example, as well. So it's not just kind of what's lighting up and how much, but what's lighting up and how much is a result ultimately of the structure of the brain. So, our brains could look quite different. Some of that's kind of built in when you're born, but some of that reflects what you've learned and the kinds of things that you give your brain to chew on during the day.
Wow, so the future of executive assessment here will be brain scan will be part of it.
I'm not going to say will, but I'd like to see it be part of it. I mean, and I have no financial interest in that at all. No, but seriously.
Is that sarcasm?
No, seriously. It's, no, I think the more robust. Why don't we take the guesswork out of it? Why not move it from an art to a science?
Right. Very interesting. So thank you so much, Doctor.
Pleasure. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Great being here. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Michael Platt, one of the leading neuroscientists in the world, giving you some of the insights of what's happening upstairs with your noggin. He's also a professor of Wharton School of Business, and I'm your host, Shane Phillips, the CEO of the Phillips Group, and we're here at the HR Summit and Expo, the #1 HR event in the Middle East.